Pallab Ghosh, BBC News.
Well, let's speak now to former NASA astronaut Leroy Chiao, who can give us his view on this mission. So the first commercial mission ever landed successfully on the moon, if it happens. What do you think the chances are?
I think they've got a pretty good chance because it's an experienced team. A lot of ex-NASA people are part of that company, and they've had a lot of NASA help and oversight. And so I think they're in a good position, and I'm rooting for them.
They're talking about this being a mission every fortnight. When do you see that happening? Is that really doable?
I'm sorry, you mean landing humans back on the moon?
No, but a mission to the moon every fortnight. Our correspondent was saying that's the goal.
Oh, right. Yes. So NASA has contracted with a number of different commercial providers. And so hopefully we'll see the first successful landing in a few days, in a week or so, from the Odysseus. But there are a number of other providers that are trying to do this. You may recall about a month ago, another provider was not successful, unfortunately. Hopefully they'll be successful next time. But these landers are intended to help pave the way by characterizing the environment for setting the pace and setting the stage for a presence of a lunar base for humans.
So give us a time frame for that, because the aim is by NASA to put humans back on the moon, by the end of this decade. Again, we've heard these time frames over the past 10, 15 years, and the goals keep getting pushed back, don't they? But what do you think is realistic time frame now?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Of course, we were supposed to have been on Mars 20 years from the first lunar lander in 1969 with humans. And of course, we're nowhere super close to that. And so I'm kind of looking at the commercial side. I'm looking at companies like SpaceX, who has been contracted to use Starship technology to build a lunar lander for NASA for humans. And so, in partnership, that might be the first one to get humans back to the moon, perhaps in 3 to 5 years is my guess. But it's hard to say when we'll actually have this lunar base that we've been discussing, because getting people back to the moon is just the first step. It takes a lot more to create a base, so it'd be some years after that.
Just explain to us, non-science people, non-space experts, why hasn't humankind been back to the moon in more than 50 years?
The first moon landings were because of the so-called space race, the competition between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was really a part of seen as, kind of necessary in order to show that one side or the other was better technologically. Of course, it was more of a symbolic race, but nonetheless had a huge effect. And so once that goal was met, once that race was won, there was no more political imperative to really go back and spend the money to continue these lunar missions and even to go to Mars. And so it was kind of forgotten. We kept doing space activities at a somewhat lower level. We were able to successfully develop the space shuttle and the International Space Station, but venturing beyond low Earth orbit has been something that we've been trying to do for a number of decades. And so finally, hopefully we'll be seeing a rekindling here of interest in the moon and Mars, and human presence again on the moon, and hopefully not too distant future, human presence on Mars as well. That's the dream.
Tell us about your dream when you first set off to be an astronaut and how that panned out. Tell us about your experiences in space.
Sure. Well, I was 8 years old when Apollo 11 landed on the moon, and that was the event that inspired me to think about wanting to become an astronaut myself. And so I never forgot that dream. I studied engineering, which qualified me to apply to NASA, and I was fortunate enough to be selected and have a wonderful flying career on space shuttles and as the commander of the International Space Station, doing a bunch of spacewalks in both American and Russian suits to help build it. But I never did get that chance to go to the moon, and so I don't really regret that. It just wasn't in the cards for me, but I would love to see presence of humans on the moon again, and hopefully within my lifetime to see human presence on Mars. So the dream continues. I had a very rich flying career, so no regrets at all, but I'd like to see humans get back there.
Are you surprised that they haven't been back in all these years?
Well, not really. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit surprised because when I was selected in 1990, that was a very exciting time. President Bush said that we were going to be on Mars by 2019, the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. We, looked like we were going to be, things were going to be moving. Unfortunately, none of that panned out, and so again, the political, will and the political necessity weren't there in order to justify the large expenditures needed. But with the commercial aspect with Elon Musk and SpaceX, Elon Musk said personally many times that he created SpaceX in order to go to Mars, that he himself wants to live on Mars. And so with that goal and the resources that SpaceX is able to bring, I'm more hopeful than I was in the past of humans returning to the moon and then going on to Mars.
Really fascinating to hear more about your experiences in space, Dr. Leroy Chiao. Thank you very much.